Lately, it feels like the American dream is running out of gas. Between skyrocketing inflation, political chaos, healthcare disasters, and endless culture wars, a growing number of Americans are wondering, what if there's a better way? For some, the answer isn't to move to another state. It's to move to another country. And that country? Canada. It may sound wild, but across the US, people are getting tired of working 2 jobs to afford rent. Tired of leaders who don't listen. Tired of watching other nations do better. And yes, calmer. So today, we're diving into 10 US states that are reaching their breaking point, and where Canada might actually be the exit plan. Let's start with Oregon. Portland used to be a progressive utopia. Now, it's become a case study in chaos, with endless protests, homelessness surging, and policies that seem to divide more than unite. Many Oregonians are looking north. British Columbia shares the same vibe, artsy, green, and socially aware, but it offers healthcare and a little more peace. For some, the Pacific Northwest dream is alive, just not in America anymore. Next up, Michigan. Once the heart of American industry, cities like Detroit are still recovering from decades of economic decline. Meanwhile, just across the border sits Windsor, Ontario, clean, stable, and surprisingly affordable. Some Michiganders are realizing that Canada has everything they need, minus the broken systems. When people can literally see a better life across the river, it's hard not to imagine crossing over for good. And here's a surprise, Texas. Yes, the Lone Star State. Known for wanting to break away from the US altogether, Texas has become a real political movement. But if they do break away, what then? Some Texans argue that partnering with Canada for oil, trade, and social systems could make more sense than going it alone. With shared values around independence and strong economies, it's not as far-fetched as it sounds. New York is exhausted, the rent is out of control, public services are crumbling, and political dysfunction is a daily occurrence. For overworked, overtaxed New Yorkers, the Canadian promise of healthcare, public stability, and slightly less hustle is becoming increasingly attractive. Cities like Toronto offer a similar big city feel, minus the pressure cooker effect that's burning people out in Manhattan. Over in California, the situation feels even more urgent. Climate disasters, cost of living nightmares, and a sense that no one's really steering the ship have left Californians on edge. Some say the state is becoming unlivable. Meanwhile, cities like Vancouver offer similar landscapes, liberal values, and tech opportunities with a safety net Americans can only dream about. The Golden State is starting to wonder if the real gold lies north. Then there's Alaska, which already feels more Canadian than American. It shares a longer border with Canada than any other state, trades more with Canadian provinces than with the lower 48, and lives in similar environmental conditions. Many Alaskans feel ignored by Washington anyway. If you told them tomorrow they were now part of Canada, most probably wouldn't complain. Some might even celebrate. Washington State is quietly going through a political identity crisis. Seattle residents are frustrated with housing, income inequality, and gun laws that don't match their values. British Columbia, with its similar coastal vibes and progressive outlook, is increasingly appealing. Some say Seattle is just South Vancouver in disguise. The border might be political, but for many, it already feels emotional. Vermont has always done its own thing. Once an independent republic, it remains fiercely local, green, and idealistic. Its people are more aligned with Canada's social policies than with America's federal politics. With its quiet towns, sustainable farms, and community-driven mindset, Vermont feels like it was supposed to be Canadian all along. Maine, with its foggy coasts and French-Canadian influence, already feels halfway there. Many people in northern Maine speak French, rely on Canadian energy grids, and participate in cross-border festivals. Cultural ties run deep. As things get weirder in the US, some Mainers are starting to look north not just for vacation, but for salvation. Finally, there's Minnesota. Known for politeness, snow, and ice hockey, the state already shares a personality with Canada. With progressive values, cold winters, and a love for social order, many Minnesotans feel like they'd blend into Canadian life with barely a hiccup. And honestly, the idea of swapping DC dysfunction for Ottawa's calm is starting to sound less like fantasy and more like a plan. Now let's be clear, no state is literally joining Canada tomorrow, but these trends are real. More Americans than ever are applying for Canadian visas. More families are moving north, and more states are realizing they have more in common with Canada than they do with Washington, D.C. But maybe this isn't about changing flags. Maybe it's just about finding peace. Because at some point, when the dream feels broken, people start looking for an exit. And for a growing number of Americans, that exit might just have a maple leaf on it. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to like, subscribe, and drop a comment. Would you move to Canada if things get worse?